There is no holding back. Power in the room right now, rising up as a force of love so high it can't come down. Every soul is a soul on fire, burning bright with the light of love. Here we are, open wide, there's no place we can hide. We sing out, we sing. Sing out, we sing. Spirit move, our hands and feet, spirit move. Everything, spirit move. In the space between, spirit move. Like a river deep and wide, rolling out like a mighty flood. Love's filling every heart and pouring out of us. We're breaking down these walls, building everybody up. It's taking over now, there's no way it can stop. So we sing out, we sing. Sing out, we sing. Spirit move, our hands and feet, spirit move. Everything, spirit move. In the space between, spirit move. Sing out, we sing. Sing out, we sing. Sing out, we sing. Sing out, we sing. Spirit move, our hands and feet, spirit move. Everything, spirit move. In the space between, spirit move. Do it again. Spirit move, our hands and feet, spirit move. Everything, spirit move. In the space between, spirit move. Spirit move. Spirit move.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us here at CSL Parker today. I extend to you my warmth and my welcome to all of those in the member community here, as well as our global family. My name is Dr. Nadine Rogers, and I am the interim senior minister here at Parker, and I have to say, it's just a wonderful honor to be walking this path of conscious evolution with each and every one of you. You know, this month in October, we start a new theme, and it is called Living as a Compassionate Conduit. Here we're going to learn to advocate for the infinite potential of spiritual truth within all people in all matters at hand. So I think an appropriate place to begin might be to light our unity candle. Now we do so in the knowing that this light symbolizes the ongoing transformative power of spirit which lives in each of us equally, uniting us all in this truth and in the courage it takes to live generously and compassionately. Here at CSL Parker, we learn to apply spiritual principle to our everyday lives based upon the teaching of the Science of Mind of Spirit written by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Now, Dr. Holmes summarizes his teaching by saying it is a correlation of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and the revelations of world religions applied to human needs and the aspirations of man. He believes that we live in a spiritual universe and that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. He also advocates that everything we think we need or we think we lack is only and ever found within us. As CSL Parker is an inclusive community, we honor all mindful paths to the one and are learning together how to celebrate and honor diversity, as well as rejoice and become stronger in what unites us. We learn to be a student with humility and awe in the vast power of good within us and within this world. We come to understand, as we walk each other home, that we teach by how we live, and that how we live becomes our prayer. So we know you are blessed here and now. And so just sit back and relax and enjoy our time of music and meditation.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Begin by appreciating the bounties of the fall harvest, the return that the seeds that you planted in the spring have provided. The water, the soil, the nutrition, the sun, all provided those seeds that grew, and their bounty has returned many-fold over now. It is just the same with our thought seeds, with our ideas, with our beliefs. When we plant those seeds with positive expectancy, knowing that those ideas, those beliefs will return to us many-fold over, they do exactly that. When we care for our seeds, our beliefs, our goals, our aspirations, when we care for them with our spiritual practice, with our love, with our abundant giving of what we have, then they too shall return to us many-fold over. Know that as you sow, you shall reap. That as you care for what you have sown, you shall reap. Sow not from an attitude of lack or limitation or doubt. Wait and sow your seeds. Plant your dreams when you have an attitude of abundance, of unlimited return. When you know beyond any measure that your seeds, your idea, your faith will return to you unbounded by any limits. Plant your seeds in that knowing. Care for them. Nurture your mental seeds. Take care of your thoughts. Your seeds are returning to you now with the energy, with the belief, and with the nurturing that you supplied when they were planted. The universe is unlimited and will return to you in unlimited ways. This is so, now and always.
One, two, three, go. If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive. If love is why I'm here, let me be an open channel. If love is why I'm here, let me give and then receive.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome once again. You know, this month we're talking about one of my favorite subjects. It's been one of the hardest lessons I have learned in my life, and I'm still growing in learning to live as a compassionate conduit. I'm also going to be talking about cultivating a generous heart as we explore this subject this morning together. I want to start with a quote from Pema Chodron. I'm sure she's familiar to most of you. She says that compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. I think that's a pretty powerful statement. She continues to say that only when we can know our own darkness can we be present with the darkness of others. And compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. So in becoming a compassionate conduit, I think we'll just start at a simple place by reviewing the differences between being sympathetic, being empathetic, and being compassionate. So having sympathy is understanding another person's situation or how they feel. Being empathetic is about feeling what they are feeling. And then compassion, I think, kicks it up a notch or two. And it's actually feeling what another is feeling and then being moved into action to help alleviate the suffering. You know, at its Latin roots, compassion means to suffer with. So when you're compassionate, you're not turning away from suffering. You're not feeling overwhelmed by the suffering, and you're not pretending the suffering does not exist. You're actually staying present with the suffering. So another important distinction, I think, between empathy and compassion is that sometimes when we're empathetic, we can burn out or feel overwhelmed, like many healthcare workers. And when you're compassionate, however, you're actually energized. It's a renewable source. So when you're able to feel empathy and then extend help to alleviate somebody's pain, then both parties are feeling a different energy move through them. The Dalai Lama famously said in his book, The Art of Happiness, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want yourself to be happy, practice compassion. And yet I know that sometimes I think people have to act in a certain way to be worthy of my kindness. But you know, compassion is a choice. It's our choice. And in India, they teach 4 laws of spirituality, which helps me remember why I call certain people into my life. The first law I want to share with you states, the person who arrives is the right person. That no one enters our life by chance, and that all the people around us, all those who interact with us, are there for a reason, to make us learn and progress in every situation. The second law says that what happens is the only thing that could happen. Nothing but nothing, absolutely nothing of what happens in our life could have happened any other way. Even the smallest detail. There is no, oh, if I'd done that, or if I thought of this, then this wouldn't have happened. You know how we get. No, that's not true. What happened was for us to learn whatever lesson we needed to learn and move on. You know, I understand this because sometimes our mind and our ego are reluctant and unwilling to accept a situation, right? But the third law states, the moment it happens is the right time. Everything starts at the right time. Not sooner, not later. But exactly when we are ready to start something new in our life, then it will happen. And the fourth and last law states, when something ends, it ends. That's right. If something has ended in our life, it is for our evolution. So it's better to leave it, to go on, and to continue now enriched by the experience. So I often think when I read these 4 laws, am I the kind of person who is ready to understand that no snowflake ever falls in the wrong place? Have you ever walked on a beach and picked up a pebble and held it really, really close to your eye to see the variant colors? The rock looms so large it obstructs the view of everything else, doesn't it? And this is what happens when we constantly reinforce that there isn't enough, that we are not enough, that they are not enough, and that we have not enough within us to effect the power of change. So if we took that pebble and then we held it at a proper viewing distance, it can be examined properly and dealt with. And we could even drop it on the sand in front of us, and it can be part of a stone path, one stone at a time. All things work together for good, and that's a principle, the effect of which is that any experience of our life can become the best thing that ever happened to us. Take a breath. Now I know that everyone relates to this, for we've all said far too many times, I was certainly upset about that challenge, but now as I look at it in retrospect, it was the best possible thing that could have happened. But why do we wait for retrospect? The power is in each one of us to activate, in the moment of our awareness of that thought, a new idea. Right when the challenge occurs. For we are the only ones that can reverse adversity in any experience. You know, back in the days, the Old Testament told, in order to be clean for your sins, you had to complete certain rituals. In Mark 5, there is a story about a bleeding woman who had been bleeding, I think it was, for 12 years. And in her culture, that made her ritually unclean. She had not been able to touch anybody or go to any public worship in years. But Jesus breaks all the rules. He touches her and he makes her well. In the Old Testament, we see that people took their gifts to the altar to be sacrificed to the Lord, and that the altar made the gift clean. The altar sacrificed and sanctified the gift. In the book of Hebrews, there is a very elaborate theology of Jesus being the altar, the priest, and the gift, all three at the same time. What we see in Jesus is that instead of the uncleanliness rubbing off on him, Jesus' virtue rubs off and makes the other person or people clean. Now, every time that Jesus heals someone, he brings the virtue and sanctity of God and puts it on that person who is ill or who is struggling, who is being demoralized. So when the bleeding woman touches Jesus, she feels the virtue go out of him and into her. It's sort of a reversal of uncleanliness, the making clean, the making well. That's what the concept of shalom, or peace, is all about. It's about making well and making whole, the bringing of well-being. So when Jesus touches with this intent to heal, what he brings is shalom, is peace. Now, an important part of the bleeding woman's story has to do with the theology of retribution, which blamed the victim and was common in that time and culture. So if you were sick, you stayed sick. It was because you or someone in your family had sinned. Now, people saw this woman's problem and blamed her for it. They were ashamed to be near her. But Jesus publicly praised her, and he said, your faith has saved you. And what a shocking thing that was, because everyone else thought she was in that bind specifically because she had the wrong kind of faith. You know, it's incredible to see the light bulbs of awareness of one's truth and wholeness come on for those who somehow survive the extreme pain of both inner and outer judgment. You probably felt it yourself. You know, those aha moments of great relief when everything comes together and makes sense for you and you realize who you really are and that you have a new choice, a clean slate from which you can move in your life. It's very similar, this story in the Old Testament, to the story of the journey of Sister Helen in the movie Dead Man Walking, one of my favorite movies. For those of you who haven't seen the movie, it's really a personal turnaround of her own mind to see the heart of a man, his true nature as love, rather than see him as identified with his heinous acts. And throughout the movie, she responds to him in growing proportion of love for this man, all the way to the point where he is actually shackled and walking to his death. She puts her hand on his shoulder and just walks, reciting passages from the Bible to keep his mind stayed on God. Now, I've shared both of these as an analogy to a foundational key to cultivating a generous heart. And before I share my own personal story, which is why this subject touches me so much, I'd like to review what Dr. Ernest Holmes says about the law of giving and receiving. He says, Jesus said, "Give and it shall be given unto you." This is the law of life. We should give of ourselves in love and in service to others, in a spirit of generosity and good fellowship. To refuse to give is to refuse to receive, for everything moves in circles. And real giving is the givingness of the self. A kind word, a thoughtful act, perhaps just a smile, can help lighten the burdens of life and fulfill the law of good. We are all parts of each other, because the same God is in each of us, wearing a different face. God is the creator of all, in all, and through all, and we are the family of all. No individual can live unto his or herself alone. We can only live unto God and unto each other. On this pathway alone there is freedom, joy, and completion. As sure as the eternal circuits of God follow this course, so shall those who give all receive all. So cultivating a generous heart as a path of becoming a compassionate conduit in our own world asks us to know through our daily demonstration that I am enough, therefore there is enough, and therefore you all are enough, and what is enough. In the Buddhist tradition, one small act of charity is said to be equal to countless acts of charity. No one can measure the effect of a single act of giving, for its repercussions are beyond our limited imagination. This one small act of charity is called dana paramita. And it also governs the idea of 3 kinds of purity. It means that true giving involves the awareness that there is no giver, no gift, and no receiver. Attachments of any kind, whether it be to self as the benefactor, the value of the gift, or to the acknowledgement by the receiver, nullify the pure act of giving. In fact, the true act of dana paramita involves giving up what we cherish, most ultimately our ego self. So here is my personal story. I was raised by one parent to give more than the other guy so that I wouldn't be in a position of obligation. The other parent gave too, to curry favor, so that he would be advantaged at a time when he most needed it. He bought people, and I followed dutifully and unconsciously in suit for most of my life. Now, I want to share with you this idea of people who live on the street, those who are temporarily homeless. You know, when I was born and raised in Toronto, and I would see one of these people, I would want to walk on the other side. I was actually afraid of them. I wanted to separate myself as far as I could. There was a time when I became quite verbal and hostile. I remember once saying to a man who was holding a sign on the corner of a street by a 7-Eleven, I just said, I couldn't look at him, and I was running by, and I just said, oh, get a job like the rest of us have to. I advanced to giving money, just loose coins, but mumbling either, I don't have any more than that, or sometimes I wouldn't give any money, and then I would just say, have a nice day, still not looking at the person or honoring them. And then one day I decided, oh, I'm going to give a large amount of money and see how I feel about that, see how I feel about myself. You see, it was all about me. Yes, and I was always very clear that they saw my generosity. That was important to me. Mm-hmm. Now, I was aware about the progression of the relationship with the homeless people in my life, and I knew instinctively, somehow, that this was going to bring me to a greater awareness and a love for myself. But I couldn't figure it out at that time. Now, later on, of course, I understood that when I looked at homeless people, I feared for myself, not because of what they might do to me, but because of what I saw in them that was me. And I was just projecting my fear onto them. So I had two very significant divine life lessons in all of this. I want to share both with you. In 1985, when I was 33 years old, I had what they call a breakdown or a breakthrough. It was one night after a long shift in a restaurant that I was managing. And after I finished and I closed down the restaurant part, I went into the bar and I drank. A typical night. I had all the money from that day on me, and after I returned home and had a knockdown kind of drag 'em out fight with my roommate, I stomped out without my shoes. Now, it was in the middle of a Calgary winter. As I was walking, to God knows where, mumbling again to myself, this disheveled man from across the street, he was weaving and swaying, about the same rhythm as me. He called out to me, he said, "Hey lady, you need any help?" Well, if looks could kill. I shouted back at him and I said, "No, I am fine." Now, the next thing I knew, I was lying in a snowbank with my head cradled in his lap. And when I opened my eyes, well, at first I was mortified. Then I heard for the first time what I would say was God's voice. And God's voice said to me, not there for the grace of God go I, but God said, there go I. There go I. So I lay there for a moment to regain my senses, and then I got up, and without speaking to the man and thanking him for his compassion, I began to walk away as fast as I could to a friend's home to spend the night, and then I checked myself into the downtown YWCA. I had pushed myself to the limit of abusing substance, of abusing myself, and others around me who cared for me. So the second lesson happened about a week later while living at the Y. So I came downstairs on my way to City Hall in a volunteer job that I had created, fully dressed to the nines, and noticed a middle-aged woman awaking from a night's sleep in a lobby chair. She called out to me, "Hey lady," must have been related to the other fellow, "where are you going?" Well, I ignored her, still shaken from my last encounter but a week ago, and still obviously in resistance to seeing myself in her. She repeated her question until I stopped. I looked at her in the eye and said, "I'm going to work." I remembered just wanting to be on the other side of that door and out of her reach. Then she asked, "Hey, could I get a job there?" Again I stopped and I said, "No, I doubt it." Then I headed for the door once again, and just as I was pushing it open, I heard her say to the desk clerk, "The only difference between her and me is her clothes." It stopped me in my tracks. So I'm going to fast forward to moving to Vancouver through another profound divine intervention from God, where I found, of course, way more folks living on the street than was comfortable for either my mind or my heart. However, something had changed in me. I guess my heart was opening as I began to share my money when moved to do so with joy. And I also stopped to speak with some of the folks, and I learned of their stories and choices as to why they were living on the street. I learned about the value of community that they fostered and the great freedom they enjoyed, knowing that their environmental challenges were but a very small price to pay for what they had received in return. Now this is where the story gets really good. As I was living on my spoils from the clowning industry and not working for the first time since I was 13 years old, the time came when I ran out of money. Then I had to ask support from, you guessed it, some of the street folks. And I thought living at the Y was bad. But you know what? It wasn't bad at all. They were purely generous, and they had nothing to lose and nothing to gain but the joy of giving to me. It was then, as I entered classes at the First Vancouver Church of Religious Science, that I had the courage to own the motivation behind some of my giving, being clearly positioned to make myself look good, to live in a good light. Because I knew then, through the principles of this teaching, that I was able to make a new, clean, fresh choice. I had a way out. It was the understanding of this teaching that righted my thinking to know that everything I think I lack or want is found right where I am within the infinite potential of life within me. I learned to be that which I wanted to see and feel in my world. And then I understood that by pressing the live from your whole heart button, the ideas of any lack within or without dissipated into the nature of love and the power it held in the now moment. The end of the story, well, there's never an end really, but it seems rather ironic that at the end of the day, this year, the Centers for Spiritual Living bestowed me with an honorary doctorate because of my extraordinary contributions to the organization and its people by means of my generous heart and spirit. You know, our prayers are most often about wanting, taking, having, being, with the caveat of a hope for a better future. If we could but receive that God exists in, as, and through us, we would rise above the fear of intimacy with the unknowable, even the darkness, and consciously partake in the infinite palette of life's bounty in our lives. We would not put pressure upon ourselves to manifest abundance in a different form than is presently already appearing in our life. A void would not exist, and our beingness would be enough. Our prayers would become ones of gratitude for the perfection of all life, and we would move from that prayer to get to the prayer to give. So some of the questions I asked myself along the way of cultivating my generous heart or my compassion for others, I share with you now. They may be helpful, I don't know. I used to ask, who am I able to give and receive without any expectation? Who am I able to give and receive without any expectation? Do I ever perceive selfish motivations in people who give to me? Do I feel indebtedness to those who give to me? Do I feel resentment of being asked to give? Do I have past experiences that might affect the way I give and receive today? Have I encountered opportunities to give but held back? Do I give with mindfulness? Does my heart expand when I give, or does it contract? I learned to listen well. I learned to listen to people as they were speaking and acknowledge their words and their feelings. For the most part, I've learned to stop, how would I say it, editorializing, because there's no place for judgment when you're practicing compassion, right? It doesn't matter why someone's hurting. It matters only that they are. So I try to focus on how I can help. And of course, we've heard the saying many times, learn to walk in someone else's shoes. Well, the idea, of course, is to imagine what they are experiencing and feel their pain and empathize. But, often when we're doing that, we focus on what we might think we would prefer in their situation or what we think they would prefer instead of asking them. So I always ask them, and then I do that. And one of the biggest things I've learned to do is give even to the hardest hearts. One of the most belligerent, antagonistic, ungrateful people in our lives, one of those, or many of them, are those who are experiencing a compassion deficit within themselves. They have been hurting probably for a very long time, and no one has come to help them. I know it's harder to reach out to those people who are often rude, but sometimes the miracles happen when it's the most uncomfortable for us, when we feel the least ready to respond or the least capable of giving. And then there's that gift that cannot be given. Because we are temporarily caretakers of all that is provided, we essentially own nothing. And this idea takes root in us, that there is no receiving, no possessing, and no giving. There is just the spaciousness that allows all things to remain in the natural flow of life. The gift that cannot be given is the development of the heart's generosity, which is a wealth that can never be depleted. It's a gift that can forever be given. It's a seamless circle that feeds upon itself. The greatest gift is the act of giving itself. An ancient Hindu saying reminds me of the simplistic yet transforming value of service through compassion. It states, "When I forget who I am, I serve you. Through serving you, I remember who I am, and I know I am you." In Dead Men Walking, Sister Helen said to Poncelet, before he took his very first step on the walk to the chamber of death, she said, "I want the last thing you see to be the face of love. So you look at me, I will be your face of love." And just like that man who showed me the selfless compassion on that cold night, wherever you are, I thank you. I know that each one of us is the face of love. So may we choose to become that face of love for all who choose to cross our path that we have called into our lives, so that they too may know and feel their true nature as love. Please join me in prayer. Oh, this is a moment in time when we come home to ourselves and the nature of love that is us and that is the nature of all life. We remember that this is how life began. This is how all true life, the life that is full, the life that is inspired, the life that is joyful and peaceful and growing and thriving and vital begins in love. And now I invite you into a personal investment that I like to refer to as sacred and faithful giving. Knowing that there is an infinite flow of abundance that is operating in and through us in life at all times, no matter our present circumstances, we can open to expand our consciousness of acceptance by giving with a grateful heart. And you know, when our souls are fed by the practice of giving through this knowing, we can be certain that our gift both blesses the giver and the receiver many, many times over. So for your convenience, we provide you various ways in which to make your contribution. You can click at the box at the top of the screen. You can donate on our website or via Zelle, or if you're more comfortable, you can mail a check to our new mailing address. You know, we receive and appreciate your gifts and your tithes, and we thank you for supporting us to continue remaining a vital and thriving center in which you can find your spiritual nourishment. So I invite you now to affirm your prosperity through the power of your own word by saying this with me. I attract all good things into being. The power of my faith enhances my experience of health, relationship, finance, fulfillment, passion, purpose, and joy. The creative source in my life is in a constant state of perfection, freely giving itself as my bounty. And so it is. And now, our offering song. Please join me in our benediction. We have been blessed by your presence here and the presence of all those who have come together this morning. All is well here. All is well here because we know that the source of all, the creative mind and spirit, is moving within the life of me and of you and of all humanity as divine right action is taking place. It is giving itself fully, selflessly, guiding, guarding, and directing us in ever-expanding, loving expressions that we have for ourselves and that we share and give to others. As infinite love and wisdom is the nature of life itself, This means that all creation is of value and is valued, that there is enough for all, and that each of us are enough just the way we are. We give thanks, therefore, for who and whose we are, and we call upon our own inner wisdom to live as compassionate conduits, even in the face of perceived divisiveness. It's everyone's desire to be loved and to give love. And so in knowing this, we see and we receive and we activate the nature of all as love. And in this way, we can move upon our world knowing that the power of light, of peace, of joy, of truth, and of love always prevails. Life is a blessing, and so are we, and so it is. Amen. And now our closing song.
To be humble, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is the thinking that the heart can still be saved, and the darkness can come quick. The danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibility, and heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace,